Welcome to a play-by-play review. I am your host Henry, and we are somehow, some way through 7 weeks of football. I'm still not quite sure how. It feels like this season just started. I feel like I say that every time, but yeah, we're already almost to the halfway point. I think week 9 is the official halfway point of the season, and we're already almost there, which is absolutely insane to me. This week specifically, we saw a lot of backup QBs show up, which not exactly a good thing because that means usually means a lot of quarterback injuries. We had a couple benches as well, and a couple benches for both good and bad performance. I'll get to that in a sec, but yeah, there's a lot of backup quarterback sightings. So it's kind of like the 2023 season, a light version of the 2023 season, you could say. There's also a lot of really, really, really bad refereeing in this week specifically. I mean, this season as a whole has been pretty bad show, to borrow an MLB term, but this week specifically was genuinely terrible in terms of the referee quality, except for the second Monday Night Football game, because we had our last Monday Night Football doubleheader, and the referee's name I think is like Nate Johnson, I think is what his name was, former NFL player also who's refereeing now. He gets a pass because he is. I'll get to that in a little bit, but he did a good job. Everyone else, not so much. So the Ravens and the Bills were on a bye this week. The only two teams on a bye for this week. So it was a pretty packed week of football overall. And with that, we go from one AFC North team mentioned, the Ravens, to a pair of other AFC North teams in the Thursday night game, which was the Steelers going into Cincinnati to take on the Cincinnati Bengals. I believe they were wearing their whiteout jerseys this week. And if you went back in time 10 years to like 2015 and you told someone that Joe Flacco would be leading the Cincinnati Bengals against Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers, I doubt many people would believe you, but it happened, and this game was actually kind of crazy. So the Bengals won 33-31 in an absolutely classic Joe Flacco game. He goes for 31 of 47 for 342 yards and 3 touchdowns. Ja'Marr Chase has 16 catches for 161 yards and a touchdown. Joe Flacco, he's only been there for like a little over a week, or like a little under 2 weeks, basically. And, you know, he's learned the playbook now, but I think he's more learned the good idea to literally just throw it to Ja'Marr Chase every single time, because Ja'Marr Chase is really good at football. And it worked. It worked really well in this one. T. Higgins also had a good game, but Ja'Marr Chase was the star of the show. It feels like anytime Ja'Marr Chase goes up against the AFC North in primetime, he'll just like be breaking records, essentially. Like it's just his time to imitate like Jerry Rice or whatever, or like Randy Moss in 2007. But yeah, at other parts of this game, the Bengals were without Trey Hendrickson, and it was pretty evident that their defense was not having a great time, especially on the pass rush. Aaron Rodgers did not have a bad game, I'll say that. He didn't have a great game whatsoever, because the Steelers, like, it looked like they were going to start out pretty hot, and then they kind of faltered after a little bit, and their run game especially was like, I mean, it was off and on. Jaylen Warren did break 100 yards, but it was like, it felt more that the Steelers should have had a lot more on offense, and they didn't, essentially. And they got outdueled by Joe Flacco, who had somehow like the best protection on the offensive line in like his life, which, if you follow the Bengals this season, their offensive line has been, well, as bad as usual, essentially, for the Bengals standards. But in this week, somehow they put on an absolute clinic and just completely shut down the Steelers' pass rush. Gave Flacco plenty of time to just absolutely dice up the Steelers' secondary. And the Bengals are they're only 3-4. I'm still not super high on them with Burrow still being out, and, you know, with how beleaguered this whole team is, especially on the defensive side. But Hey, this is a big win on primetime against a division rival who was leading the division and still is. So it's I'm not super confident in the Bengals, but I mean, if this is the Joe Flacco they're gonna get, then I think they're in a much better position than they were just a couple weeks ago. I like the Joe Flacco trade when it happened, and I like it even more now with how they just absolutely trounced the Steelers. As for the Steelers, hey, that's bad. This is really bad. I mean, divisional games are always such a toss up. Like anything could happen, but like you're really giving up 33 points to the Joe Flacco led Bengals in 2025. Like this is on paper the most expensive defensive football, and they're doing that. So sorry to my friend Ian from way back when, but yeah, this is a bad game for the Steelers. Joe Flacco. I mean, it always seems to be Flacco. Yeah, it's just the bad man is back again, and yeah, it was rough. So moving on, we go to London for I think this might be the final one. I think it's the final London game of the of this year. I think we have two more international games after this later on in November. One in Berlin, one in Madrid. But this is the last of the London games, and it was the Rams taking on the Jaguars, and the Jaguars' second home since. For those who don't know, the Jaguars have a deal with I don't know. I'm assuming it's just with the NFL and like the NFL International, but they have a deal in place where they play one game overseas in London every season. Because I know the Jags owner Shad Khan, like he also owns Fulham. I'm assuming FC. It's the one of the Premier League teams in London, so like he's got connections over there. And so that's why you see the Jags over there every year. It's like how the Lions and the Cowboys always have home games on Thanksgiving. It's similar like scheduling niches there. I'm not sure the Jags wanted to play in London this time around because they basically could do nothing this entire game. They lost 35-7 against the Rams, and basically any goodwill they had after these past few weeks just kind of evaporated in like the span of 60 minutes. Their offense just could not get anything done, like at all. They were just constantly like turning the ball over or like on downs, and just could not get just a modicum of success going. Literally, the only guy who was like you could say did well was Travis Hunter. He actually had a good game on both sides of the ball. On offense, he went for 101 yards and a touchdown on 8 catches. He had a big touchdown catch in terms of yardage wise in the fourth quarter. They were already down by like 28 points at that point, but it was so it's not like a big like game changing touchdown or anything like that, but it was a big in terms of explosive play, which the Jags had lacked that whole game. It was just, they needed like 6 more of those to compete with the Rams, who, without Puka Nacua, by the way, just completely ran over and passed over. More passed than ran over, figuratively ran over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Matthew Stafford set a new record for the NFL, and he threw for 5 touchdown passes, which is the most in an international game so far. And there's somehow been like 60 of them now, which I feel like it's only been happening for like 7 years or something like that. Like it's been a very recent development, but I guess it's been a little longer, and there's been a decent amount of international games overall. So it's a decent amount of games, but still it's a lot of them have usually been pretty bad. So I mean, well, it's not that throwing 5 touchdown passes in a game is easy, but anyway, yeah. Stafford throws for 5 touchdown passes. Devontae Adams had a pretty solid game. The Jags just could do nothing on either side of the ball to stop the Rams. And this was like about as one-sided as you could get. Not quite the most one-sided game this week. We got at least one other that is even worse. We'll get to that soon. But yeah, it was... Rams are 5-2 now, and I mean they're I think tied with the 49ers in terms of record. And although the Niners might hold the tiebreaker over them, I'm not quite sure. But I am much more confident in the Rams right now in the season than I am with the Niners, just because the Niners have so many injuries. But yeah, this is like about as definitive as a one you can get. The Rams look really good, and the Jags, I mean, they started to look better over the past few weeks, and I was very optimistic about them. But this is one where it's like there's a couple teams this week where I'm going to say kind of similar thing. It's you get optimism about these young and upcoming teams where it's like they have a lot of young pieces and they're coming off of stretches of bad seasons where they're like starting to improve pretty quickly, but something's going to happen and they still quite aren't there like at that next level yet. The Jags, I think, are one of those teams at the moment where they can certainly win plenty of games, especially against bad teams, but they're definitely going to struggle against good teams because there's just it's not everything's quite clicking yet. The Jags, I worry a little bit more about just because of Trevor Lawrence being, in his fifth year already, and like he has so many expectations on him, and you really want him to take more of a leap than what he has. And it's something I've been saying a lot in my recaps is that Trevor Lawrence should be taking more of a step than what he necessarily has this season. And that's that's my big worry with the Jags right now is that Trevor Lawrence isn't showing enough improvements in his game to, be confident in him because it's like for a team like Atlanta, who I'm going to get to later, it's like they still only have a second-year quarterback who's only played like 5 or 6 games in Michael Penix Jr. Like you can expect duds of a performance because he's still incredibly early into his career, and he's on a team that is, rebuilding-ish, essentially. It's like a retool rebuild for them. So, like, I'm good skipping ahead a little bit to the Falcons' performance, but they lost this week, and I'll go into detail then. But it's like you can kind of expect those performances against a team like the 49ers, whereas the Jaguars, I mean, again, I wouldn't say this is I'd say the severity of the loss is unexpected. I would say for how solid. I mean, the Jags beat the Kansas City Chiefs on primetime last week. Or was it 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, I think it was. And so I don't want to say they're a bad team whatsoever. They're 4-3 still, but like these kind of losses are worrying, like very worrying, is what I'm trying to get to essentially. But yeah, I think the Jags will find a way to bounce back. Maybe if not this week, then maybe a couple weeks down the line. But it's losing in such a complete way, like on every facet, is not a good look for a team that is trying to be on the upward trajectory. And yeah, I think that's basically all I can say. I don't think the Jags are going to free fall, but I don't know. I'm still a little shaky on them. So moving on to the Sunday afternoon games, the 1:00 games. The first one I'm going to talk about is one I'm going to go pretty quickly over, and this is the Las Vegas Raiders, who were 2-4 going into Kansas City to take on the 3-3 Chiefs in Arrowhead, and this is the one that was even more of a blowout loss than the Jags Rams, because the Raiders did not score a single point in this game. They lost 31-0, and legitimately this was about as embarrassing and one-sided of a loss as I've seen in a good while. Like it was, I saw stats where it's the Chiefs had as many touchdowns as the Raiders had, I think, first downs. The Chiefs had as many first downs, which was, I think, 30, as the Raiders did offensive snaps. Like, the Raiders offensively were so unbelievably bad that the Chiefs were literally kneeling the ball down with, like, 5 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. And the Raiders just, like, Pete Carroll and the Raiders were just, like, completely fine with it. Like, there was nothing the Raiders could do this game. Like, Geno Smith has looked awful this season. And, like, he didn't even throw, I'm not even sure if he threw an interception this game. He might have thrown, like, 1 or 2. But it was, like, they just couldn't do anything. Like, this was so one-sided. The Raiders were literally just going 3 and out, like, every single time. It was just ridiculous. Like, it was, a lot of people like to say it's, you take the best college team. Like you take 2019 LSU against like the worst NFL team, and the worst NFL team would be up by like 50 at halftime. This is what that felt like. Like it was so bad. Max Crosby got injured in this game and he was out for a while, which did not help things. I don't think if he played the full 60 minutes, it would have, like, the Chiefs might have scored like 28 instead of 31. It would not have helped all that much because the Raiders, I don't think their defense is the main problem. I think it is a problem. It is not the main problem. It is their offense. Like they have Ashton Genty, and I liked him. And I said in my AFC preview that I liked a lot of their moves where it's like they have some good, like if Geno Smith could play well and they can, run the rock with Ashton Genty, they could be an interesting offense to look out for. That has not been the case whatsoever. Geno Smith has looked like his Jets and Giants form rather than his like 2022, 2023 Seahawks form. And Genty is like, while he's certainly shown flashes, he has no help on the offensive line. Like he's getting met in the backfield constantly. So he has no chance whatsoever. And when it's a team that can just basically stack the box the whole time because they're not worried about Geno Smith in the slightest, because he has been one of the like top three in terms of worst quarterbacks in the league. It's like there's no reason to like drop more than 4 guys in coverage basically, because it's like there's no threat from Geno Smith at this point in his career. And like whatever offense scheme Pete Carroll's running, because presumably he's running the offense. I actually don't know for sure, but I think he's running the offense. And it's just there's nothing that makes the Raiders threatening in the slightest. Some other notes about this game. Rashee Rice was back for the Chiefs, and they fed him a lot in this game. I think he had 2 touchdown catches in this game. Mahomes also got, well, not that he got benched. It's not in the same way it's like he benched a bad quarterback for bad performance. Like his day was done by like midway through the third quarter because the Chiefs were up by so much and they didn't need to risk him anymore. Like the game was over by halftime and Mahomes led like 1 touchdown drive in the third quarter, and Andy Reid was like, "Yep, you're good. We can just play." I'm not even sure who the backup quarterback for the Chiefs was. I think it was Gardner Minshew. And they just stuck him in for the latter half of the game and, just said, go have some fun. Minshew Mania was back for a quarter and a half, basically. Cause the Raiders they couldn't do anything. It was kind of embarrassing to watch. The Chiefs, they're 4-3 now. They've won their last 2, and they certainly look like the Chiefs that we expected to see. Having Rashee Rice back helps. And, I mean, it's the Raiders. I'm not going to, say this is like a season-defining win or anything like that, but it's, I always say divisional games are a total toss-up sometimes, and this is one where the Chiefs completely own the game start to finish, and for contending teams, this is what you want to see. So I'm going to take a sip of water here real quick. All right, so next up is another blowout. There are a couple blowouts in this week, and this is one where the 1-5 Miami Dolphins go into it was going into Cleveland to take on the 1-5 Cleveland Browns in a game that I don't think many people were, excited about all that much, given the state of these two franchises. So the Browns won 31-6, and this is with Dylan Gabriel, the Browns quarterback, only passing for 116 yards on 16 attempts. Quinshon Judkins, who's the Browns rookie running back, he ran the ball 25 times for 84 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was the star of the show on offense for Cleveland, and it was really more their defense was just making Tua's life a living nightmare, as how it's been the past couple of years for Tua. It was rainy that day in Cleveland. Like it was pretty miserable conditions, so it wasn't really like a passing passing kind of day. And for the Dolphins, who thrive on those, like on the speedy kind of passing attack, since their run game has not been very good, and Cleveland's run defense is really good most of the time, at least. This is kind of what is expected. Tua threw three interceptions. I believe he threw a pick six in this game. It was about as depressing as it gets for the Dolphins. Like it was just they just couldn't do anything. Kind of rinse and repeat what I said for the for the Raiders and the Jags before. For the Dolphins now, they just couldn't do anything on offense whatsoever. Cleveland's defense was just destroying them completely the whole time, and somehow Mike McDaniel is still here. I guess they're just gonna not fire him until the end of the season from the looks of things, because I mean I'd be shocked at this point if Mike McDaniel gets kept for next season for the Dolphins, their head coach. But yeah, it's I wouldn't be too surprised if by like week 11 we see Quinn Ewers start over Tua, because Tua's just he's a shell of his former self at this point, and he's looked worse and worse with every week. It's not good. And it's not even like he's injured. I think it's just like he just looks bad. Like he has no zip to his throws. He's making bad decisions. He's not a good scrambler anymore, and yeah, he doesn't have a ton of help either. And it's just all bad basically. This is a flush it down the toilet kind of season for the Dolphins, and at this point you might start to need to look for a new quarterback, because Tua is not looking like it's like he's the guy whatsoever, and probably going to need to look for a new head coach as well. As for the Browns, I mean, you're still 2-5. It kind of sucks, and you're a quarterback that you just traded away just absolutely shredded the Steelers. But I mean, a win's a win, yay. Yeah, I still don't know if I like the Browns this season for like even getting to 500, but yeah, I mean, at least they look convincing here, and you got a little bit more of what you saw out of Dylan Gabriel. So that's that. I can't really say too many positive things about a team that's 2-5 and a team that's 1-6. So I mean, Quinshon Judkins looks good at least. So there's that. So a team that I can talk a lot more positively about is the New England Patriots, who hosted the Tennessee Titans, who were 1-5. Patriots were 4-2 going into this game, and this was the Mike Vrabel revenge game, because Vrabel, who was the Titans head coach for a good number of years up until 2023, he's now coach of the Patriots, and it looked a little shaky at first for the Patriots. Titans put up 10 points in the first quarter. They were up 10-3 after the first quarter. And then Drake May kind of showed out, and really the whole Patriots team as a whole just completely took over the game. They won 31-13, and the Titans offense just completely shut down like after really into the second quarter, and especially the second half. They only scored 3 points after the first quarter. They kicked a field goal in the second quarter and then scored nothing in the second half. I mean, Cam Ward, he made some good throws, I'll say that. But overall, it was still like he had some bad moments. He had a defensive touchdown scored on him where he was getting pressured around, I think, his own like 4-yard line essentially. And he tried to throw the ball away, and the ball literally slipped out of his hands. And it like didn't even like throw it. It just fell out of his hands as he tried to like bring his hand up to throw. And I think it was a blitzing linebacker or a defensive end or whatever it was. Basically just saw the ball like fall right in front of his feet and just took and walked 4 yards into the end zone for a touchdown. It was kind of embarrassing, but also kind of funny. And I think the silver lining for the Titans is that they look more interesting offensively than they did under Brian Callahan. They're still not good in any stretch of the matter, but yeah, it's I can't find too many good things to say about the Titans. They had Mike McCoy, who's their interim head coach, basically had a total brain fart when it came to the 2-minute drill that he had, where he basically just didn't call his timeouts and didn't even try really to, threaten to score. Like they were around like midfield or even over midfield with like 40 seconds and all three timeouts. And they basically just let the clock run down and just went to halftime. Like they didn't even try. It was I don't understand because there's literally nothing to lose. Like I guess maybe Cam Ward getting injured, but like I that's like you can say that about literally any play in the game, pretty much. But they're a 1-6 team on an interim head coach. It's like just go out there and like do crazy stuff. Like the season's over for them at this point. They're in a division with the Colts, who are somehow the best team in football. So it's like just go out there and have some fun, or at least try to play aggressive. Do something interesting. Don't just do nothing. That's what I'm saying for the Titans, because otherwise you're just boring to watch, and nobody likes boring football. As for the Patriots, they're 5-2. They're looking really good. I mean, winning against the Titans, it's whatever. But like they beat the Bills earlier, and Drake May looks very solid. Like compared to the first couple weeks for this team, this is a completely different Patriots team, and I don't want to necessarily say the evil empire is back, but it's getting there. They certainly look a lot better than they have over the past couple of years, and they're definitely a pretty solid playoff contender at the moment. I'd keep an eye out for the Patriots, and they're certainly no pushover at the moment. So yeah, I'm really liking what I see out of Drake May. So next up, we'll do the Panthers at the Jets in a game of. Well, Panthers were 3-0 or 3-3. The Jets were 0-6. This was, I like to say, for mediocre games, it was a game of all time. This was the game of all time. It was Panthers won 13-6 in an absolute snooze fest. Bryce Young has a high ankle sprain out of this game. He went down in, I think, the third quarter. So Andy Dalton came in and didn't really do anything of note. It was a weird thing where the Panthers, after Rico Dowdle goes for over 200 scrimmage yards in back-to-back games, they didn't start him. They started Chuba Hubbard, who was coming back for injury. And I get that, you want to start the guy who's like a team captain, and he gave him a contract extension in the offseason, and he's coming back from injury and all that. But like, come on, man. Rico was going absolutely insane over the past 2 weeks. Like, how do you not go with a hot hand instantly? But yeah, it was not a fun game to watch. It's not a fun game to recap. I doubt it was a fun game to play either. The Panthers, I mean, it really sucks that Bryce Young went down with injury. I don't know how long he's going to be out for. My guess is a couple weeks, but yeah, it was. I like silver linings besides being 4-3 and all that. Xavier Legette's having a good stretch of games, which they really need because he had a terrible start to the season. And J.C. Horn made an absolutely insane interception. I think he had 2 interceptions this game. And J.C. Horn is looking to be a very good cornerback in this league, like potentially one of the best cornerbacks in the NFC, which is what you want for a pretty young defense. You just got to hope that Bryce Young gets healthy and can, keep up this nice little winning pace that they have at the moment. As for the Jets, I mean, I don't know if rock bottom it could be used to describe this because it's the Jets and they always seem to find a new way to go to rock bottom. But I mean, they're 0-7. They benched Justin Fields in this game because he was just terrible. And now they're starting Tyrod Taylor in week 8. So I don't think that's ideal because Tyrod Taylor has been a backup for pretty much his entire career, or well, most of his career, at least this back half of his career at this point. Like really ever since like 2017, I want to say he's been pretty much a backup. And 2017 was 8 years ago at this point. So yeah, it's not good. I honestly, at this rate, I'd be a little shocked if the Jets actually win a game. Like their defense has good players, although Sauce Gardner did go down with an injury. I don't know the specifics of that. I just know he did go down with an injury in this game. Um, but this offense is like looking to be historically bad. So I don't know if the Jets are going to win a game this season. It's getting to that level of like the 2017 Cleveland Browns, where it's like their offense is so unbelievably garbage that I don't know if they can like the Panthers scored 13 points in this game, and that kind of felt comfortable, to be honest, which is not good. Like I they were like they would have lost um, with a touchdown and 2 point conversion if the Jets had scored that, and I was not all that worried, to be honest. I was pretty comfortable with the Panthers scoring 13 points and winning the game, like just there. This Jets offense is that bad. Like they basically have Garrett Wilson and that's it. Like Brees Hall, I think is a little overrated. I don't think he's a great running back, and he's not in a great system to boot. They have a couple good offensive linemen, like Armand Menbu and Olu Fashanu. They've both been playing pretty well, but like you can't have a good offense built on one good wide receiver, okay running back, and two good offensive tackles. Like that's not a recipe for success. You need a bit more than that, and right now, the Jets don't have that. Uh, so yeah, sorry Jets fans. I wish I could be more optimistic, but I think you could agree that this is a season for the dumpsters for the Jets. So I believe the last of the 1 o'clock games, the Saints going into Chicago to take on the Bears. Saints were 1-5. Bears were 3-2, coming off of um, a solid win against Washington, and one that I'm very about. And this is one where I've been pretty I'd praise Spencer Rattler for like being solid, like better than expected. Up until this point, this is the Spencer Rattler I kind of expected to see. He threw 3 interceptions this game. He had a couple of good passes to touch. He had 2 touchdown passes to Chris Olave. Like he had some decent passes here and there, but overall it was bad. The Saints defense was really struggling with the run. DeAndre Swift had his second 100-yard rushing game in a row, or I don't. I guess that make grammatical sense. He rushed for another over 100 yards for the second game in a row. I'll say that. And he was really the offensive dynamo for the Bears in this game because Caleb Williams didn't look all that great in this game, to be honest. Like the Saints' pass defense was actually pretty solid. They just couldn't stop the run whatsoever, and the Saints' offense was just putting their defense into horrible situations constantly. And this is also a game where the Bears didn't really need to pass like 50 times, but because they were in control pretty much the whole time. But it was still like, even when Caleb was passing, it was okay. Definitely could have been better, but he didn't really need to be perfect in this game. This is just one where the Saints just couldn't really get much going. They felt like they had some chances, especially in the second half, whereas like they started to try and claw back a little bit. But then Rattler just threw another interception, and then he threw another one, and then he threw another one, and yeah, it was rough for the Saints. It was Dennis Allen's revenge game. Allen, who is now I believe the defensive coordinator for the Bears, was the head coach of the Saints over the past couple of years, and yeah, his defense just completely demolished the Saints in every facet. And so yeah, I mean. Saints, they're 1-6. I've said it for most of these recaps where this is a season with maybe one expectation at best, and they might meet it, maybe not. But yeah, these are the games where you're just kind of like, yeah, whatever. You can turn it off by halftime and not really care because there's not much to really worry about unless you're like really into the nitty gritty for film stuff. Then it's like you want to watch these games for all that. As for the Bears, I mean, hey, they're 4-2. They're on a winning streak, but definitely need to get that passing offense working a bit better. But I mean, hey, if this is what they can, if this is the Ben Johnson offense where they want to run, where they can really get the run game going a lot better over the past couple of weeks, then I think the Bears are actually going to be pretty threatening. Where it's something I've been saying, coming into the season, where it's like on paper, the Bears have a really solid team on both sides of the ball. It's just that it's the Bears and something always goes wrong. And right now, I feel like that other shoe hasn't quite dropped yet. Like they're still, I wouldn't, I'd say they're like upper B tier if like I were to do a tier list. It's like I'm not quite ready to say they're like on the level of the Rams or like the Buccaneers or the Lions, but I think they could certainly give any of those teams a run for their money at the moment. They might just not win, I'd say. But it's overall, I got nothing really against the Bears. I think some of their fans have been annoying with the whole Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams rivalry that they came up with online. But I got nothing against the Bears really, and I think they're trending in the right direction, especially in the run game, which has been something that they've lacked for really most of the franchise, but especially in the recent times. And so if they can get this run game working as they have over the past couple weeks, they can really get something going here, I think. And yeah, that's basically yeah. That might be. I'm gonna take another sip of water here, and then hopefully not cough and have to edit it out like I did before. But next up is the start of the afternoon games. The Indianapolis Colts, not Coats, the Colts going into LA to take on the Chargers. And it was one where, like, the first quarter was kind of a defensive battle, and then both teams really the Colts just completely flipped the script and went on an offensive tear. The Colts won 38-24, and it was one where Jonathan Taylor is really stating his case to be the offensive player of the year. He had another 3 touchdowns in this game. Like, he was already leading the NFL, I think, with 8 touchdowns coming into this game, and now he scored 3 more on top of already good yardage numbers. So I drafted him in fantasy. I'm really happy about that. He's been absolutely insane. Like he's been incredible for the Colts. And I mean, Daniel Jones didn't have a bad game, so to say. Like he wasn't like lighting up the stat sheet. He didn't need to with Jonathan Taylor running the rock, but I mean, he played solid football. And the sad part is for the Chargers is that Justin Herbert had a good game. He had to throw the ball 55 times, so because of that he did go 420 yards and 3 touchdowns. So this game was not his fault. I know, like, a lot of people say he's the F man, like, he like people like to rag on him for like for various things, but this was in no way his fault. Like, his defense, the Chargers defense, which was supposed to be solid. I think Khalil Mack was back this game. Either that or he might be back next week. I'm not quite sure. But the Chargers defense wasn't supposed to be bad. This week they were really, really bad. They just completely folded to the Colts in this game. I mean, hey, the Colts are 6-1, so it's not like they're a joke of opponent in any means. Like, they're record-wise, they're the best in football. And like, I think I saw a stat where like their points per game or like their EPA, like one of the awesome offensive like efficiency stats basically was like they're the best team through 7 weeks ever in football. Like, not this season, not even like this decade. Like, they are the best offensive team, like, in terms of like efficiency and scoring points or something along those lines in like all of football history, which is crazy. Like, they're even better than the 2007 Patriots at the moment in like that specific stat. And it's not like a really niche stat. It's like a decent like quantifier, which is like kind of insane. Like, this Colts offense is incredibly hard to stop, I think. But I mean, for a Chargers team that, they started out 3-0 against winning 3 straight divisional games, and it's one where it's like, they expect to be a playoff contender. Putting up this dud of a performance against the Colts is not ideal in the slightest. It's like at least Justin Herbert had a good game, but I think that's about it. I mean, for the Colts, like, this is a season from heaven at the moment. Daniel Jones looks pretty solid. Like he's not like super elite at the moment, I think, but he's very like he's not doing too many bad things at the moment. He's like outside of the Rams game, he's been protecting the ball and he's running the offense well. Jonathan Taylor's been again he's my front runner for offensive player of the year. Tyler Warren, their rookie tight end in the first that they drafted in the first round, he's been a revelation. He's been incredibly good, and like exactly the kind of addition they needed because their tight end room was so bad last year. And he's actually been like one of the best tight ends in football so far this season, and like slotting him into an already pretty solid offense. There's a good reason why this team's 6-1 at the moment. So after that, because I don't think I can sing the praise of the Colts much more. They just look really good. We'll do the we'll do the Giants and the Broncos next. This was quite the game, to say the least. So the Giants were up by a lot going into the fourth quarter. The Broncos did not score a single point until the fourth quarter. The Giants were, I think they're up 28-0 or something like that. Or like 26-0 maybe. And they're up by a lot, essentially, going into the fourth quarter. The Broncos proceeded to score 33 points and win, 33-32, which is one of the biggest chokes I've seen in a good while. I mean, the Giants are 2-5, so it's not like they're, otherworldly or anything like that, but they gave up 33 points in one quarter. And that's not even the only reason they lost. They had their place kicker, who they signed to fill in for Graham Gano, who's been injured, missed 2 extra points in this game. He has since been cut. And that also kind of lost them the game. This is one where the ref ball was like at absurdly bad levels, especially against the Broncos. And yeah, it was so bad. And I mean, Dart looked fine in this game. He had 3 touchdowns. He also had a pretty back-breaking interception in the fourth quarter that really picked up the momentum for the Broncos. Scatabo didn't have a great game. And this is one where the Giants' defense just completely collapsed in the span of less than 15 minutes. Not even a full 15 minutes, less than 15 minutes. And yeah, like I haven't thought that the Giants are, a super amazing team whatsoever, but this is still like incredibly embarrassing. 33 points in one quarter. Like not even a full 15 minutes and you give up 33 points. That should be like statistically impossible. And yet they did it anyway. And it's still, oh my God, it's just ridiculous. Like I'm a fan of a rival of the Giants and I'm frustrated with them. Like how do you do something that colossally or yeah, that insanely bad. Like it's ridiculous. For the Broncos, I literally have no idea what to think of them. Like, especially on the offense. Because like, yeah, you scored 33 points in one quarter, but like, you really should not be putting yourself in a situation like that to begin with. Like, I get the Giants they have a good defense, especially on the pass rush. But how do you not score a single point in 3 quarters? I don't know. I still have no idea if Bo Nix is good. I think Sean Payton's actually been doing a really bad job of play calling this season. And it's like, it almost feels like it's getting worse and worse every week. And this week was no exception. And they won the game, but I legitimately have no idea what to think of the Broncos. They're 5-2, and I still don't know if they're a playoff contender or not. It's just, this game helps no one except for the Broncos record. And also us NFC East fans who are not Giants fans and laughing at their Schadenfreude. But yeah, it was, I don't know. It's one of those crazy games where you just kind of look at it and just kind of shrug because it's like, that's football. And I don't know anymore. I've stopped trying to, make sense of it. One of the game where I'm also not really quite sure why it was like this was the Packers and the Cardinals. The Cardinals hosting the Packers. Packers were 3-1-1 going into this. Cardinals were 2-4, and this is another game where Jacoby Brissett got the start over Kyler Murray, and it was the second game in a row where he looked like not just better, but like significantly better than Kyler Murray running this offense, which is terrifying if you're a Cardinals fan. Because I mean, we all know kind of what they've invested, like massive contract, first overall pick. They've really, they've invested so much capital into Kyler Murray, who is, I mean, he's been stagnant his whole career, and the fact that he's getting outplayed by Jacoby Brissett in 2025, and I'm not even sure if Marvin Harrison Jr. was playing in this game. I don't think he was. That is embarrassing on such a sad level. Like I really want Kyler to come back when he's healthy and like play at least at the same level that Jacoby Brissett has, to like at least make it seem like he has something left to prove, or like that he is, like, he's still worth it to like invest in. Because like, oh my god, how does Jacoby Brissett in 2025 outplay you by like a definitive margin? And I'm not trying to bash Jacoby Brissett here. I like him. I like him a lot. I've always liked him, even like when he was a backup on the Patriots back in like the late 2010s. And like him playing this well, I'm really impressed. Like, go Jacoby Brissett. This is awesome. But like, he's a backup quarterback. Like, we know we kind of know what to expect of Jacoby Brissett. I don't think anyone's really clamoring for him to be a franchise starting quarterback at this point in his career. And the fact that he's outplaying the franchise quarterback for Arizona is, ugh, it's not good. Anyway, about the game itself, the Packers won 27-23 in another game that another one-score game that the Cardinals were leading and then choked away. Micah Parsons got 3 sacks in this game for the Packers. First time ever in his career that he got 3 sacks in one game, which greatly surprised me. Like, I get 3 sacks in one game is not easy in the slightest, but like Micah Parsons has been such a dominant force as a pass rusher in his career that like I would have thought at least one time while he was a Cowboy he got 3 sacks in one game. Like, I mean, he plays the freaking Giants and the Commanders in the like early 2020s, back when they were both god awful. Like, how did he not have 3 sacks in one of those games? I don't know. But he had 3 sacks in this game, and like him and the Packers defense really turned it on the second half and really closed the door. Jordan Love did not look very good in this game. The Packers offense as a whole was not great in this game. I think Josh Jacobs got injured for a little bit, but then came back. He had 2 rushing touchdowns in this game, and he was really the Packers offense for them. But overall, for the Cardinals, they're 2-5, but they've lost still a lot of close games. They just somehow now have a quarterback controversy, and I'm both sad and also shocked and also not shocked. It's just kind of depressing. As for the Packers, this is worrying that you're having to play the Cardinals close. But hey, they're 4-1-1. I think they're technically leading the NFC at this point, because there's like 6 teams in the NFC that are 5-2. Because the Packers have one less loss, their record is technically better. They're 4-1-1, but yeah, they've just been so kind of inconsistent this year. Like, they had dominant wins to start the season against Detroit and Washington, but they've looked a lot more pedestrian ever since. And like, I wouldn't say pedestrian, actually. They've looked solid, like above average, but like not in that same level as it was to start the season. So I'm still a little worried about the Packers at the moment. I need to see a little bit more, especially on offense, for them to like really get back into like, being one of those top 5 teams in the NFL. So we have to get to the Commanders and the Cowboys. Jaden Daniels and the boys going into Dallas. So the Cowboys won 44-22. CeeDee Lamb returned for the Cowboys. And this is one where basically everything that could go wrong for Washington did go wrong. This is second week in a row for Washington where they're going up against a statistically poor rush defense, like one of the worst rush defenses in the league in the past 2 weeks against the Bears and the Cowboys. Both weeks they barely ran the ball. It's feel like every single time Washington tried to run the ball, it was basically just up the middle for little to no gain, which does not seem to be Bill Krosky-Merritt's strong suit. Like, he seems to be more of an outside runner rather than an inside runner. And, you know, with the run game going down so quickly, it forced Jaden and the Commanders' offense to rely on the pass, which really was not helpful because the Commanders were without their top 3 wide receivers this week, and Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, and Noah Brown. So when your ex wide receiver, you know, like the quote unquote top guy is Chris Moore, your Z wide receiver, I think, like basically your top 2 wide receivers in this game are Chris Moore and Robbie Chosen. These guys are both, well, Chris Moore might not be, but Robbie Chosen was on the freaking practice squad. And like, these are your top guys that you're throwing to. Like, I don't know if maybe Tom Brady, because he was throwing to practice squad guys, it felt like every week. But like, this is not a wide receiver core that is in any shape of the way good this week. Like, I mean, I wish they got like Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane more involved, because these are the young guys that they invested high draft capital in and just didn't really involve them all that much. I mean, I don't know how much it's like scheme and how much it's Daniels not throwing to them and whatnot, but like, it was ridiculous because like everyone knew going in this game that Commanders were without their top 3 wide receivers. Like, I don't understand why they didn't try and scheme up better run designs and like try to get more of your young guys and like Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, and even Ben Sinnott, the second round tight end that they drafted last year. Like, why are they not trying to scheme up better plays than what they did? I have so many things that I could rant about the Commanders that I'm going to save, but they were not good. Jaden Daniels also went down with an injury in the second half of this game. Literally the first drive of the third quarter, he gets tackled low and like basically, and I wouldn't necessarily say it's a hip drop tackle, but it was definitely a tackle well below the knees that injured his hamstring. He went down for the rest of the game. Marcus Mariota came in. He did not play well. And it was also compounded by one of the worst defensive performances I've seen from Washington in a good while. They could not guard anyone, basically. This is also a game with really, really bad refereeing. I could try and go through every single bad penalty in this game, but that would take me 5 hours. It was not good in the slightest. Dallas certainly, they looked a lot better in this game. This is probably the best game I've seen them play all season. They're 3-1 now, and you know, with CD back and George Pickens being an incredible trade so far through the first 7 weeks of the season. For as much, you know, crap everyone gives to Jerry Jones for trading away Micah Parsons, and deservedly so, the George Pickens trade, at least so far, has looked very solid for them. Like, he's filled in incredibly well for the Cowboys, and Dax looked really good. And Javonte Williams has also looked really good for the Cowboys rushing attack. So this is the number 1 offense in the NFL for a good reason. Like, it's them and the Colts, I'd say, are like kind of above everyone else at the moment. And it's like I mentioned before about that statistic about the Colts being like the most efficient. It's like, I think in terms of like, it's like points per game or whatever, the Cowboys are the number 1 offense. And that's like, you know, on broadcasts, I'll hear like everyone say the Cowboys are the number 1 offense or whatever. So it's, yeah, you know, you can pick your stat to say who's like the best, but either way, the Colts, Cowboys, they're probably the top 2 offenses in football right now. So yeah, that's that. TLDR, I'm very sad as a Commanders fan, essentially. that is what I got out of this game. I am very sad now. 2 just demoralizing losses back to back. Jaden Daniels might not play in the Kansas City game on Monday night, and I am ready to be done with Joe Witt Jr. As a defensive coordinator. So now I believe I actually skipped over the the Eagles Vikings game in the 1 o'clock window. I'm not sure how because I know I have it in my notes here somewhere, and I think I just completely scrolled over it. Um, so the Eagles won 28-22 over the Vikings. This is another Carson Wentz start. And this was Jalen Hurts' best performance in a good while. He actually had a perfect passer rating in this game. Threw for 326 yards and 3 touchdowns. Saquon still has not looked good at all this season, but I mean, in this game, they didn't really need him all that much because the Eagles were just, their offense looked a lot more like what it usually is. Devontae Smith had 183 yards and a touchdown. AJ Brown also had a really good game. And it was one where, I mean, the Vikings definitely had a chance late in the game. And there was just some really baffling coaching decisions where they were down by multiple scores. I think they're down by 11 points or something like that. Whereas they needed to kick a field goal and then like touchdown and I think a 2-point conversion to either tie or at least or take the win. Basically. And it was like 3 minutes left. The Vikings had like either all their timeouts or like 2 of them basically. And they had like a 4th and 2 on the in the red zone on like the 14-yard line. And they chose to go for it. And I don't necessarily mind the call. But it took them another like 5 plays to actually they basically ran another 5 plays, thought they scored a touchdown, which was overturned, and it was kind of iffy on the overturn. Maybe TJ Hawkinson caught it, maybe he didn't. And they were forced to settle for a field goal anyways. And in doing so, they also burned through the 2-minute warning, which basically my point is that in hindsight, they definitely should have kicked the field goal on the initial 4th down. But even when I was watching it, I kind of preferred to them to kick the field goal to save that 2-minute warning and, just give them more time so they, basically give their defense more time essentially when they inevitably had to kick it back. And it was just some odd coaching decisions by the Vikings towards the end of the game. Did not help in a game where overall, I mean, they didn't play their best. Carson Wentz did not have a very good game, especially in the first half. He was really struggling in the first half. But yeah, it was one where the Eagles definitely outplayed the Vikings. And I mean, even if the score was close, I would say the Eagles were pretty much in control throughout this whole game. So they are 5-2, and after a 2-game losing streak, they get back on the winning path and with one of their best offensive performances in a while. And now they go look to correct the wrong of what happened on Thursday Night Football against the Giants because they're going to play against the Giants in Week 8. We'll see how that goes because the Giants are obviously coming off their embarrassing loss. So I don't know. We'll see which team has more motivation. So now we get to the Sunday night game. This is the Falcons and the Niners. Falcons going into San Francisco where they lose 20-10. This is another Mac Jones start because Brock Purdy's not quite back to full strength yet, and it seems like the Niners are playing him or being very cautious with him, and understandable given the just sheer amount of injuries they have. George Kittle was back for the Niners in this game. He proceeded to have 0 catches, which frustrated me as a fantasy owner of him, but I mean, hey, they won and it's whatever. But yeah, this is one where this was the Christian McCaffrey game. He had 129 yards and 2 touchdowns just on the ground alone. And he also had 7 catches for 72 yards through the air. So it's, as long as McCaffrey stays healthy, I think the Niners have a decent chance to at least do something in the playoffs because McCaffrey is just insane. But I mean, it was a pretty boring game to watch. It was not very interesting. The Falcons were just completely stymied. Like, it just felt like the whole time. Penix did not have a very good game. And the rushing attack, Bijan got completely stuffed. And yeah, it was just, this is like, even with all of the injuries that the Niners have experienced, this is the Niners team that we kind of expect, where it's just kind of offensively, they, just have these skill players where they just find a way to churn out yards constantly. Because Kyle Shanahan is like, he just knows how to offense in the NFL. Like he just seems to be able to create any sort of offense out of thin air, no matter the players he has. And then defensively, under Robert Saleh, they just have a completely suffocating defense on every level, even without their star guys of Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. And against a young team in Atlanta, they just outplayed them the whole time. And so then the Falcons, it's one of the ones where it's like they're a young team, they're up and coming, but losses like this do happen. And ultimately it's growing pains, but you got to find a way to improve this and not just be stuck in football purgatory where you're repeating these same sort of mistakes like the Cardinals or the Dolphins have wound up in, essentially. So, and I'm going through quick on that game, partly because I'm getting, this episode's starting to get a little long, and also just because the game was not very interesting in the slightest, to be honest. And also because we'll have to have another Monday night doubleheader, so we have two games. First game, the only lucky thing about this was that they were spaced out. They weren't overlapping for most of it. Although the downside of that is the second game happened at freaking 10 o'clock. Like, it started at 10 o'clock because it was in Seattle, which sucked, but it is what it is. The first game, though, was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into Detroit to take on the Lions. And this was one where I was surprised, how one-sided this was. The Lions won 24-9 on a pretty balanced offensive attack. Jahmyr Gibbs had a really good game. He broke off a huge touchdown run in the second quarter. It was like 61 yards or something like that. But it was more that the Bucs offense, they're just massive amount of injuries, especially to the wide receiver core and the offensive line, really caught up with them, and they just could do nothing this whole game. Detroit. This is also not to put down Detroit. Their defense put on a clinic in this game. They were just completely owning the Bucs, but it felt like the Buccaneers, it was their injuries were finally starting to catch up to them, and they were really struggling to find any sort of momentum. And then to add injury to insult and injury, essentially. Mike Evans has now broken his collarbone, also suffered a concussion on the same play in this game where he's trying to make a diving catch. And he is now out for most likely the whole season. If not, he might return in week 17 or 18. But yeah, it's Mike Evans is done for a majority of the season. It's almost certainly, unless he goes for 500 yards in 2 games, his 1,000 yard streak is going to end at, I believe, 13 seasons in a row, which is very unfortunate. And yeah, it's just this is the game where everything that could go wrong did go wrong for the Buccaneers, and you gotta hope for them that if you're a fan of them, you gotta hope that they can bounce back from this and not have things start to spiral, because no one on their team looked good in this game. Baker Mayfield had a pretty mediocre at best game, and that's a very generous at best. Baker Mayfield did not play all that well. Rachaad White got completely stuffed the whole game. So they desperately missed Bucky Irving. They desperately missed Chris Godwin. They need Egbuka to get healthier again because he didn't have a great game. And it was just overall, it was one where the Bucs were just not able to get anything going on any level. As for the Lions, though, they only put up 24 points, and it's whatever. But this was complete dominance on both sides of the ball. I think they got to be really, really happy with how their defense played in this, because this is also a game without Brian Branch, because he had this suspension after last Monday night where he punched Juju Smith-Schuster after the game ended, and yeah, it was this is the kind of defense that they want to see for Detroit. They're just completely suffocating. And, against a team that was 5-1, one of the top teams in the NFC, they just completely shut them down. And I think I thought the Lions have been a contender this whole season, and this is only further proving my hypothesis. I think they are one of the best teams in the NFC at the moment. And they have overall, they're a pretty healthy roster as well. So I definitely put them on the inside track to at least make it to, say, the NFC Championship game with how they're playing. The final game of the week was the Houston Texans going into Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Seattle was also just coming off of a loss in the ALCS. Yeah, ALCS. The Mariners got bounced by the Blue Jays in Game 7, so Seattle was already coming into this game. Although I think the game started like kind of towards the 8th and ninth inning, but just to add in a little bit of baseball news, the Mariners, who have never been to a World Series in the modern, or I think ever in their history, were one game away from reaching it and lost. They actually were one game away by Game 5 and lost two in a row to the Blue Jays. So Seattle was obviously very distraught about that, and they at least have a winning football team. Seahawks won 27-19, but even then, I don't think it made them feel all that better. This is one where it was just a really ugly game overall to watch. The Texans offense could do literally nothing this whole game. They legitimately one of the most pathetic offensive showcases I've seen from a quote unquote like contender in a good while. CJ Stroud has I don't usually like using the word regressed when it comes to quarterbacks, especially young quarterbacks, because it's so hard to tell. I'm making an exception for Stroud because he has looked like he's regressed hard over the past, really this whole season. How much of that is on him? How much of that is on his lack of an O-line and what looks to be a pretty bad offensive coordinator again? I don't know, but even just the throws that he makes, it just looks like he's throwing the ball a lot worse than he did in his rookie season and even last year as well. Like he just does not look like the same guy at the moment. And this is one where the Texans have basically no run game. Their pass game is really struggling. Their offensive line is one of the worst in football. And Seattle's defensive line was just bullying the Texans the whole game. Like they had multiple times where they're trying to convert short yardage situations on third and fourth downs. There's one where they were first and goal from the 1 yard line basically, and they just could get nothing done the whole time. They had a defensive touchdown, which was why this score was a lot closer than it was. And then they scored a touchdown late when it was the Seahawks kept turning the ball over. But it was one where it would just take them so many tries to even get positive yardage. They could not run the ball well. Nick Chubb has looked like a ghost, and Woody Marks they don't use enough. And they also severely missed Joe Mixon, who has still not been able to get back on the field yet. And then the passing game, Nico Collins didn't have a great game, and then he also got injured in this game. And it was just overall really bad. The only silver lining was that their defense is still pretty solid. They gave up 27 points, but it's hard for any defense to, hold the door for as long as they can with how bad the offense is. And this is one where they even forced 3 turnovers, I'm pretty sure, against the Seahawks. The Seahawks did not play a good game, at least on the offense side of the ball. The defense played well. But on the offensive side of the ball, outside of Jackson Smith-Njigba, who is also in the running for Offensive Player of the Year, he had another 100-plus yard game and a touchdown in this game. Darnold threw 2 or 3 interceptions. They fumbled the ball at least once or twice. It was one where they were, effing around and finding out basically, or they're really close to finding out where for as bad as the Texans were playing overall, they were still able to, their defense was keeping them in the game. They just couldn't quite seal the deal, which is very, very frustrating to watch even as a neutral fan. It's just very frustrating to watch teams that are able to keep themselves in the game with, with their defense and with capitalizing on a team that's not playing up to their standards, but then they themselves are not able to capitalize off those mistakes anyway, where it's frustrating. It's just very frustrating because it just felt like neither team really deserved a win, or it's neither offense deserved to win, I should say. Really, Jackson Smith-Njigba deserved the win on the offense side of the ball, and that was it. No one else did. This was a defensive showcase more than anything else, which should not have been, really, but it was. And, in the end, the Seahawks win 27-19. I think they would have preferred to have lost this game, but had the Mariners won instead, for, fans of Seattle sports, but it is what it is. But I mean, hey, the Seahawks are 5-2, so I can only complain about them so much. But this is one where it's like, just get your offense under control, please. Don't turn the ball over so many times, and you're gonna be okay. Um, as for the Texans, they're 2-4. I'm not confident in them in the slightest. They don't have the excuse of a cakewalk division anymore because the Colts and the Jaguars have already surpassed them, and I don't even know if they can make a wild card at this rate because their offense is just so anemic. Like it just can do nothing, and that's what really worries me because that was supposed to be, a major improvement in this offseason with how many guys, like skill position guys, they invested, and how they supposedly addressed their O line. They really didn't, but they supposedly did. And they changed offensive coordinators, all that, and it's no longer the sophomore season for Stroud, so he no longer has the quote unquote sophomore slump, which I think is very much overblown. I think it's incredibly overblown for Jaden Daniels as well. But I mean, Stroud's like, it's kind of similar to Trevor Lawrence, where it's like you've been in the league now 2.5 years, and for him, it's like he's even starting to regress, where it's like you're not showing that next step that you need. I mean, I get that he has a terrible offensive line and no run game, but even still, it's like I'm not confident in Stroud in the slightest at the moment. I'm not a fan of the game he's been putting on so far this season. And right now the Texans are outside looking in, and I think they're going to stay that way this whole season. So that's that for this episode. It was another week of football, another loss for Washington, which makes me very sad. But yeah, I mean, this season's been very fun overall, just because like the unpredictableness of this season. I feel like this week felt a little bit more predictable than the others, but like overall, the unpredictableness has been very fun to watch, and it feels like this season more than like any other in the past. I think really since 2020, I'd say. And even then, 2020 was still, 2020 is kind of a special just without the pandemic and all that. But like this season, this felt like the first season in a good while where I think like there's no like number one contender. I feel like for the Super Bowl, even with how some of these teams like the Colts are playing. I think like there's so many like above average teams and so many good teams that like it's tough to tell like who the truly great teams are. And I'm really curious to see over these next few weeks, like who starts to separate themselves from the pack, or if everything just seems like remains kind of, level, like, parity remains. And it's like, we still aren't able to like really determine who is that number one contender for the Super Bowl. And I'm really interested to see like what becomes of it essentially, because it's been a really enjoyable season, all things considered. I do wish the refereeing was a lot better and that Washington won more games, but I can't do anything to fix that. So I'm just gonna enjoy some more fun football, essentially. Next episode, I'm not entirely sure what I'm gonna do next. I think what I'm gonna do, I've been kind of talking myself into it as I've been at work and theorizing of what I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna do a sort of history summarization of modern video game, like not necessarily trends, but like games in the past like 20-25 years that have like really captured a cultural zeitgeist. So like to give a few examples, so like Minecraft or Fortnite or Halo or Call of Duty or something like that. Like 2000, from the year 2000 onward, like looking for or just kind of summarizing some of those games and like how the genres, like major genres, shifted and like what gaming companies did and all that. Because I think it's interesting to see, especially in the 2010s, because I think the 2010s have a lot of different games to them, and like just kind of how some of these big games like really shaped the gaming market as a whole, and like what developers tried to create, and like what kind of trends they tried to follow as well. Because I think it's interesting. As an avid gamer, I think it's an interesting little rabbit hole to delve down. So I think that's what I'm going to do next. Most likely, that episode is going to be recorded and posted Saturday night, I think, just with how my schedule's looking. I have more open this week than I did last week. So I will hopefully get a second episode done. If not, for whatever reason, obviously it's going to, next episode would instead be the week 8 NFL recap, which will be posted on Tuesday night, at least for, my usual schedule. So yeah, that's my current plans. And yeah, I hope you at home tune into, or wherever you're listening, tune into those next episodes. And as for this episode, I thank you very much for listening.